Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Chapter 29, verse 31. We read the pasuk yesterday. After Yaakov marries both Leah and Rachel, it says in the pasuk that God saw that Leah was hated, and He opened her womb, whereas Rachel was still barren. It's a pretty steep phrase. Leah was hated. Ramban on pasuk Lamed Aleph. Kisnua Leah. Hine Leah Ramsa Ba'achosa. Leah betrayed her sister, Gambi Yaakov, and he also misled Yaakov. And the bottom line is Lavan pulled a big one on Yaakov, and who aided and abetted in this misleading of Yaakov. Leah. The agreement was that Yaakov would marry Rachel, and Lavan switched his two daughters. Leah surely knew she was being switched. Now you'll say, "Kim nomar shenoag kavod ba'avia she'achaz ba v'ichnisa elav v'al tamir bo." You'll say, "Come on, what's she supposed to do? This is her father. She has to treat her father respectfully. Her father probably physically took her, put her in this position. What's she supposed to do?" She doesn't necessarily have to physically fight with her father over where she's going. But once her father has left the room, she should tell Yaakov, "I'm Leah," or she should hint him in some way. Af ki hoisa misna keres kol halayla ulefichach lo hikirat shara sababoker. Seems pretty clear in the pasuk that he only realized who she was in the morning. So the whole night went by, and she didn't give him any clarity. Vilachein sana Yaakov. Therefore, Yaakov hated her. Ramban says, yeah, Yaakov hated her. She was a core to a terrible trick that was played on him. Now, if that's what it means, that if indeed Yaakov hated her, and that's why he hated her, it seems like a legitimate reason to hate somebody. I mean, we don't like using that term, but it seems justified. So then where's God coming into this? God saw that Leah was hated and opened her womb. Why? She did something so bad. The Ramban says, because Hashem knew that she only had good motives and that she saw the greatness of what it was to marry this great person. That's why she kept her mouth shut. So Kadosh Baruch Hu had mercy on her. And by the way, it's very important to this is such a sensitive, important subject. We have to pay close attention to the words of the great commentator Ramban. The Ramban is not saying that she was right. Ramban didn't say that. But the Ramban said that because these were her motives and she had good motives, he had compassion on her. God had compassion on her. Medrash says that Yaakov had animosity towards Leah for her role in this trick, and he was on the verge of divorcing her. So, but then once she started having children, he says, "I'm not going to divorce, the mother of my children." So according to the Medrash, what it means that God saw is really, really significant. In other words, God had an understanding that Leah might not have had. Whether or not Leah understood that Yaakov had resentment for her, but Leah know that Yaakov was considering divorcing her. And did Leah understand that children would be all the difference for that? So God saw, and because of that, God had Rahmanas on her. And he made it be that there were children so that she wouldn't be divorced by her husband. So that's maybe somewhat of a surprising pshat from the Ramban, but certainly an understandable pshat from the Ramban, and taking the word of the pasuk very much at face value. V'yesh omrim kishtayim nashim shoachas ahuva ma'od tikare hashniya snua connecta. So he cites the Radak that the term of hatred is a relative term. That if there are two wives and the husband has a uniquely affectionate relationship with one of them, then in relativity, the other one is considered hated. It says later on, or it says in the pasuk that Yaakov loved Rachel more than he loved Leah. It doesn't say lo shesana. It doesn't say that he hated her. I mean, to say that he loved Rachel more than he loved Leah implies that he loved her, that he loved Leah. But the Radak says that the pshat is that he didn't love Leah as much as he loved Rachel. And it was a source of embarrassment for her, of shame for her. So God saw her difficulty, and therefore God blessed her with children. That would be an impetus for Yaakov to view her differently in some way. So the upshot is much less literal in terms of the meaning that she was hated. It's a relative term. Okay, let's go on to the Orach Chaim. Orach Chaim pasuk lamed aleph vayar Hashem ki snua Leah yichavin lomar ki Hashem levado hu sheyoda v'hikir ki snua. Fits in with part of what the Ramban says. It's not the exact same point. What does it mean that God saw that she was hated? So it's interesting. So I think many of us would assume that it means God saw that she was hated and opened her womb. So everybody saw she was hated, but God was the one who saw she was hated and opened her womb. I think that's how many of us would have understood it. The Orach Chaim says, and this is similar to the Medrash the Ramban cited, only God understood that Yaakov had this resentment towards her. Lo kain he, Leah didn't understand that she was resented. Shelo hirgisha b'sinasa, she didn't even appreciate that he resented her. He just thought, okay, he has a more affectionate relationship with Rachel than with me, but it was worse than that. But God understood that it was hatred, so therefore God felt he had to do something to change the game. That's why he blessed her with children so much more and so much more quickly than her sister. Okay, let's go on to chapter 30, verse 1. We see a lot of humanity of the patriarchs and matriarchs in these parshios, by the way. Again, they're still great people, but it's interesting to reflect on some of these things. And this is no exception. I believe if I'm not getting my sequence wrong, Leah has already had 4 children, and Rachel sees she hasn't borne children for Yaakov. And Rachel had jealousy towards her sister. Vatomer el Yaakov havalivanim. And she said to Yaakov, give me children. Vim ayin meisanochi. And if not, I die. By the way, just as an aside, Rashi says the idea, the Gemara says that a person who doesn't merit to have children is the pain of it is like, the difficulty of it is like not being alive. That's how Rashi explains what she's saying. Verse 2, Vayicharaf Yaakov b'Rachel. Yaakov became angry at Rachel, Vayomer, and he said, Achsachas Elokim anochi, asher monami meich privatan. Am I God? What do you mean, give me children? What do you want from me? Powerful exchange, a little bit difficult to understand what's going on here. Let's see the Ramban on Pasuk Aleph. Havalivanim. Amru hamafarshim shetispalil alai. So Rashi says what she means when she says, give me children, daven that I should have children. Yaakov, you've got to daven for me. She doesn't mean that Yaakov runs the world, but Yaakov, daven for me. We cited that already. Vanitama, says Ramban, I find this wondrous. Im came lama charapo. So we have to fit her statement with his response. It has to all click together. So again, on its face, her statement is bizarre. So Rashi says no. So what she means is daven for me. Okay, if she means daven for me, why does he react so angrily? I understand why he's reacting angrily if she means what it literally sounds like. How am I supposed to control who has children? But if all she means is daven for me, that makes a lot of sense. Why shouldn't he daven for her? Why would he get angry at that? Umasha Amar Abba lo hayu lo banim ani yesh le banim mimcha mana mimeni lo mana v'chiat tzadikim ein mispalin barachirim v'nei Eliyahu v'Elisha spalu b'nashim nachrios. There's a medrash. It's based. Rashi cites in the next pasuk He says, am I instead of God who has held back from you the fruits of the womb? Medrash says, I've had children. It's you who hasn't had children. So don't think of my parents, because my parents, neither one of them had children when they davened. What does that mean, says the Ramban? Is he not able to daven for his wife? Prayer is only for myself? That's very difficult to understand. V'nireh sheb'shvil zeh tafsu Rabboseinu, Amar Beishas Rabba, Amar lo Kadosh Baruch Hu, kach onen es ha'ma'ikos, chayecha shebonecha asidim lama l'fnei b'nah. It's a medrash that God calls Yaakov to task for this response. He says, is that how we talk to someone who's in tsar? The rest of the children will all stand in subservience before her child, which of course is a fast forward to the story of Yosef. So this whole exchange is so difficult to understand. So the Ramban says, I think what's going on here is as follows. Amra Rachel Yaakov, Shitin Labanim. Rachel says to Yaakov, you should give me children. And of course, what she means is that he should daven for her. Yaakov can't create a child for her. He should daven for her. She says, you got to keep on davening. You until I have children, you can't stop davening. And if you don't keep on davening for me, I'm going to kill myself in my sorrow. Dibra shelo kahogen b'kinasa. This is not an appropriate way to speak. This idea of, and if you don't, I'm going to kill myself. V'chashva ki ba'avasa osa yis'ana Yaakov v'yobash sakva efer v'yispal achiyu labanim shelo tamus b'tzara. We all have something like this in our own lives. Sometimes we feel like we can press a very dramatic button with a person. And if we say that thing, wow, everything is good. They're going to react. They're going to drop everything because we said the magic words. So she thought, in his affection for her, that he would start fasting and he would wear sackcloth. And, the moment she would say, I'm going to die in this anguish, she thought everything would stop. Vayicharaf Yaakov, but Yaakov got angry. He says, of course I should daven, and I have davened, but you think I've got some button that once I really want God to do it, now it just automatically happens? That's not how it works. The reason he got angry was not because he didn't understand her pain. And it's not because she wanted him to daven, it was that she was like trying to press his buttons with this dramatic language of, and if not, I'm going to die. And they say something, I'm not God. So he did fire back pretty hard. With it's you, it's not me. That wasn't the way that he would normally speak to her, but she had raised the temperature so dramatically in what she said to him, so he fires back in a very firm way. We're going to see the pasuk tomorrow, God willing. But ultimately, when God provides her with the child, it says God listened to her. It's a little bit difficult because when you say God listened to her, you would think that there's an earlier pasuk that she was davening. So it's logical to say that she was davening, but it feels like we missed a step. Ramban says this is the step. That what she saw from her exchange with Yaakov. Of course, Yaakov cared about her. Of course, Yaakov had been davening for her. But she felt like she had to push him. And if she pushed him, that his prayers would reach another level and then she would have a child. What she saw very clearly from his reaction is that his prayers were what they were going to be. And so this wasn't going to be a game changer. So then the only game changer left is in her own hands. And she has to take tefillah into her own hands at this point. Those at the Wednesday night Navi class, this is extremely reminiscent of what we had with Chana. That Chana became angry with Elkanah, frustrated with Elkanah, frustrated with the situation, I should say. And the Malbim said that after this, she says, forget it. I'm just going to start davening for myself. Is that to say that they weren't davening before? And I don't think so. But I think what it is to say is it's a different feeling if a person feels it's all up to me. And then that seems to be the pshat here. So we discussed the Ramban this morning about Leah being hated, what that meant, and we discussed Emdor Chaim, and we discussed the Ramban and Rashi regarding this difficult exchange between Yaakov and Rachel about children. Let me just stop the recording.